I mean, it is a possibility, yes. I have someone coming in soon. 3 separate artifacts, yes. Yes, sir. I'm not quite sure. Shouldn't be anything drastic. No. Yes, sir. I believe he's here now. No. Take care, sir. Evening. As you can see, I've been a little bit busy with the, how you say, superintendent of the organization. Now, that organization being the, to put it lightly, the Bureau of Paranormal Research and Development. Now, what that entails is, oh, did you want a light for that? Yes. Carry on then. I'll just tell you what's been going on. So, we received 3 artifacts from an anonymous source, we'll say, which strikes us as quite odd, seeing as though we've never had an anonymous donation of artifacts of this magnitude. That being said, we're going to go over those in quite a bit, but first I'd just like to give you a warm welcome to the Institute, from me and the superintendent, of course. Now, what we're going to do is examine these the artifacts that were given to us, and briefly go over and archive them into our database. And what you're going to do is casually watch while I do this, have your smoke, cigar, what have you, and then we will go over our findings together once we're both in the mood set. Now the first package I will start with is this one. As you can see, we've already made a box for it. It's ready to be archived away. Fragile, logo, a little bit of details we've already put in. And we're going to have to tape this back up once we're done. Then go through decontamination afterwards, because we do not want our DNA on any of these artifacts at all. Now, if you're ready, I will begin. Yes. Artifact 1 I have in one of our archive boxes. I'll take that out now. This one we have now would be the elf shot, which we acquired in Ireland. Now this relic has been duly noted as the arrow that poisoned Alice Monaghan in March of 1809 in Kilcarney, Ireland. Now, this one was donated by anonymous source, catalog number being 152013. And with this little slip, we will archive our names on it, as well as our findings, as we go through the process and carbon fiber dating, carbon radio dating, etc., X-rays. Now, like I said, we did have anonymous source, which we are trying to figure out who that is. As of yet, we have no findings as to who that's been. So, hopefully in the next coming days, weeks, or months, we can figure that out. Hopefully sooner than later. Now, placed the artifact inside our box, which will be displayed in a glass case for the time being anyways, before we archive it fully. Its origins, who it belonged to. Now we know who died by this elf shot, but we don't know who shot the elf shot. So we'll have to put that underneath investigation, as well as x-rays, like I said, DNA, fingerprints, that sort. Now, as I said, it is an elf shot, so we are assuming that this was not fired by a human being, which is, where we come in, the Bureau of Paranormal Research and Development, to figure out who exactly fired it. It could be from an elf, a goblin, an ogre. We'll never know until we delve deeper in. But me and you will be doing that later. Now, the second artifact I have will be the Hog Dru Jihad Amulet we recovered in a Aztec temple, which was guarded by a blood priest, which seems kind of odd, seeing as though they all died out tens and thousands of years ago. How this one was still alive, we don't know, but his body will be brought in for some more research. Now, we recovered this artifact off an island in Portugal. Or so they say, anyways. This archive number is 123604. And it was belonging to the Aztecs. So what we'd figured out so far. Now, as you can see closely, it appears to resemble some sort of tentacle monster, that of which we're not sure yet. We have researchers at the temple still currently going through the tombs as well as various caverns they have uncovered to try to figure out the origin of this amulet. We'll put our names and numbers down, and we'll go through this more detailed later in the day. But we do have our archive slip already. Let's take a closer look. The bindings appear to be some sort of meteorite ore with a leather strip, as well as some gold as well. Now, we shall put that one back in the case for now. And the third artifact I have here is a unusual metal or amulet. Catalog number 11526. We recovered this one in Romania. Well, it was donated by our anonymous source in Romania. The description for this one we have so far is the Silver Soul Niger metal. And this one was collected apparently in April of 1997, the 23rd. Now, let's take this out and examine it further. With this one, it's a rather large amulet. We're unaware of who it would be worn by as of yet, but we'll send that through the Bureau, and we'll also go over it together, you and me, and figure out the origins of this. As you can see, there is what appears to be the Silver Soul, a sun, and a moon, as well as what appears to be a star that's encircling it. The cord is made out of what appears to be some sort of melted down obsidian, blended with various metals. The archive slip is ready to go as well, so whenever we work on that, alrighty. And now we're just going to go through our catalog book and see what we can find on any of these artifacts. My book for today will be the the Necronomicon. Hopefully we can uncover some origins and data regarding to the artifacts we have found inside this book. Now, we recovered this book in the 1500s. You must be thinking, how did we recover it? We've been around for a very long time. Centuries. And this was recovered in the 1500s, bound in human flesh, written in blood as well. You must have special permission to be able to hold this. And as you can see, it's quite extensive in its knowledge. Delve into this, shall we? Now, we're going through the selected letters, as well as other stories in different macabre tales. As you can see here, it appears to be a photo from the story Dagon by H.P. Lovecraft. Now, through our time in the Bureau, we have found a lot of artifacts relating to otherworldly beings, such as Cthulhu, Dagon, lurking fears, rats in the walls, houses, perhaps, dream quests, gaunts, giants, ghouls, most notably the Nameless City. Now, over the course of this week, we'll be going through this book, jotting down notes, pinpointing certain occurrences, trying to find any sort of relation to the artifacts and the written texts. You're curious as the contents of this book. Would you like to hear some? You would. Is there anything specific you were looking to hear? The Cats of Ulthar? No. I do have Night-Gaunts, Dagon, Randolph Carter. What about the Unnameables? Vaults, I have tales of horrors and rocks under the sea, houses, mystical keys, whispers and darkness, what have you. You want me to pick one? Okay. I will read you the, let's see, the Night-Gaunts. How does that one sound? Might as well start off with the first story in this book. As you can see, this story seems to depict some sort of gargoyle, imp, or flying demon in some sort of Victorian London setting. Now, this is what they have recorded back in, let us see, 1429 of the sightings of what the Night-Gaunts would have looked like, and personal reports from eyewitnesses of what the Night-Gaunts would be. So I'll begin. Out of what crypt they crawl, I cannot tell, but every night I see the rubbery things, black, horned, and slender, with membranous wings. They come in legions on a north wind swell, with with obscene clutch that titillates and stings, snatching me off monstrous voyagings to grey worlds hidden deep in nightmare's well. Over the dragged peaks of Thok they sweep, heedless of all the cries I try to make, and drown the nether pits to the foul lake, where the puffed Shoggoths splash in doubtful sleep. But ho, if only they would make some sound, or wear a face where faces should be found. Now, those would be described as the faceless ones. As you can see, their faces are quite bare. Horned beings as well, flying in legions. This book does have its treasures. Would you like to hear another story? You would. Let us see. The Cats of Ulthar, which would be on page 21. It is said that in Ulthar, which lies beyond the river sky, no man may kill a cat, and this I can verify. Believe as I gaze upon him, who sitteth purring before the fire. For the cat is cryptic, and close to strange things, which men cannot see. He is the soul of the antique Agapus, and the bearer of tales from forgotten cities. He is the kin of the jungle's lord, and heir to the secrets of hoary and sinister Africa. The Sphinx is his cousin, and he speaks her language, but he is more ancient than the Sphinx, and remembers that which she hath forgotten. In Ulthar, before ever, the burgess forbade the killing of cats. There dwelt an old cotter and his wife, who delighted to trap and slay the cats of their neighbors. Why they did this I know not, save that many hate the voice of the cat in the night, and take it ill that cats should run stealthily about yards and gardens at twilight. But whatever the reason, this old man and woman took pleasure in trapping and slaying every cat which came near to their hovel. And from some of the sounds they heard after dark, many villagers fancied that the manner of slaying was exceedingly peculiar. But the villagers did not discuss such things with the old man and his wife, because of the habitual expression of their withered faces, and because their cottage was so small and so darkly hidden under the sprawling oaks at the back of a neglected yard. In truth, much as the owners of the cats hated these odd folk, they feared them more, and instead of berating them as brutal assassins, merely took care that no cherished pet or mouser should stray towards the remote hovel under the dark trees. When through some avoidable oversight a cat was missed and sounds heard after dark, the loser would lament impotently, of course himself by thanking fate that it was not one of his children who had thus vanished. For the people of Ulthar were simple, and knew not whence at all cats came first. One day a caravan of strange wanderers from the south entered the narrow cobbled streets of Ulthar. Dark wanderers they were, and unlike the other roving folks who passed through twice every year. In the marketplace they told fortunes of silver, and bought any beads from the merchants. What was the land of these wanderers none could tell, but it was seen that they were given no strange prayers, and they had painted on the sides of their wagons strange figures with human bodies and the heads of cats, hawks, rams, and lions. And the leader of the caravan wore a headdress with two horns and a curious disc betwixt the two horns. There was in a singular caravan a little boy with no father or mother, but only a tiny black kitten to cherish. The plague had not been kind to him, yet they left him this small furry thing to mitigate his sorrow, and when one is very young, one can find great relief in the lively antics of a black kitten. So the boy whom the dark people called Meanies smiled more than often than he wept as he sat playing with his graceful kittens on the steps of an oddly painted wagon. On the third morning of the wanderer's stay in Ulthar, Meanies could not find his kitten, and as he sobbed aloud in the marketplace, certain villagers told him of the old man and his wife, and of sounds heard in the night. And when he heard these things, his sobbing gave place to meditation, and finally to prayer. He stretched out his arms towards the sun and prayed in a tongue no villager could understand, though indeed the villagers did not try hard to understand, since their attention was mostly taken up by the sky and the odd shapes the clouds were assuming. It was very peculiar, but as the little boy uttered his petition, there seemed to form overhead the shadowy, nebulous figures of exotic things, of hybrid creatures crowned with horned flank discs. Nature is full of such illusions to impress the imaginative. That night the wanderers left Ulthar and were never seen again. The householders were troubled when they noticed that all in the village there was no cat to be found. From each hearth the familiar cat had vanished, cats large and small, black, grey, striped, yellow, and white. Old Cranon, the burgomaster, swore that the dark folk had taken the cats away in revenge for the killing of Meanie's kitten, and cursed the caravan and the little boy. But Nith, the lean notary, declared that the old cotter and his wife were more likely persons to suspect, for the hatred of cats was notorious and increasingly bold. Still, no one durst complain to the sinister couple. Even little Atal, the innkeeper's son, vowed that he had a twilight seen all the cats of Ulthar in that accursed yard under the trees, pacing very slowly and solemnly in a circle around the cottage, two abreast, as if in performance of some unheard rites of beasts. The villagers not know of how much to believe from such a small boy, and though they feared that the evil pair had charmed the cats to their death, they preferred not to chide the old cotter till they met him outside his dark and repellent yard. So Ulthar went to sleep in vain anger, and when the people awakened at dawn, behold, every cat was back at his accustomed hearth, large and small, black, grey, striped, yellow, and white. None was missing. Very sleek and fat did the cats appear, and sorrowness with puffing content. The citizens talked with one another of the affair, and marvelled not a little. Old Cranon again insisted that it was the dark folk who had taken them, since cats did not return alive from the cottage of the ancient man and his wife. But all agreed on one thing, that the refusal of all the cats to eat their portions of meat and drink, with their saucers of milk, was exceedingly curious. For 2 whole days the sleek, lazy cats of Ulthar would touch no food, but only doze by the fire or in the sun. It was fully a week before the villagers noticed that no lights were appearing at dusk in the windows of the cottage underneath the trees. Then the lean Nith remarked that no one had seen the old man or his wife since the night of the cats were away. In another week the burgomaster decided to overcome his fears and call it the strangely silent dwelling as a matter of duty, though in so doing he was careful not to take with him Shang the blacksmith and Thul the cutter of stone as witness. And when they had broken down the frail door, they found only this: 2 cleanly picked human skeletons on the earthen floor, and a number of singular beetles crawling in the shadowy corners. There was subsequently much talk among the burgesses of Ulthar. Zath the coroner disputed at length with Nith, the lean notary, and Cranon, the Shang, and Tool were overwhelmed with questions. Even little Atal, the innkeeper's son, was closely questioned and given a sweetmeat as reward. They talked of the old cotter and his wife, of the caravan of dark wanderers, the small Meanies and his black kitten, of the prayer of Meanies and of the sky during that prayer, of the doings of the cats on the night the caravan left, and of what was later found in the cottage under the dark trees in the repellent yard. And in the end the burgesses passed the remarkable law which is told of the traders in Hatheg and discussed by travellers and near, namely, that in Ulthar no man may kill a cat. What did you think of that one? Interesting, right? Now that one was around, I'd say the 1800s, and was written down in this book ever since, as much as all the other tales as well. They seem to have just been written in this book all at once. As it makes no sense really, but that's why we're here, to delve into this paranormal, mysterious occurrences. Now, I believe it's time for us to get to work, shall we? It appears you're done your cigar, and well, I see you got into the scotch as well, but no matter, we can have a drink. Now, we have a long day, as well as a long week ahead of us, so we should get started. All right, my friend.